because of the common theme. While it's winter time, very foggy, the visibility is very poor. And how difficult it is to drive in a fog. We can't see, we can't make out what's in, say, a couple of meters from us. And you know what? This illusory cover, this cover of Maya around us in this material world is actually a situation like a fog. In fact, in Srimad Bhagavatam, this material world, this Maya has been compared to a fog because it doesn't let us see the reality. So I will again thank my spiritual mentors for giving me the light of knowledge. You see, when the sun emerges from behind the clouds, it disperses the fog. The fog just vanishes. So it is when the sun of this knowledge of the scriptures like Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam appear in our life, it actually dispels the foggy conditions that we have in our life, the inability to see things as they are. And that's what makes our goals very clear. That's what makes the purpose of our life very clear. We come to the shlokas. Let's first say the prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjan Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesh Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Feeling warm and comfortable with this beautiful verse, this beautiful mantra, even in these very uncomfortable, foggy, wintry conditions. Well, the mantra actually works on your soul, but it also works on your mind and your body. So it's a threefold thing. The threefold existence that we have are all taken care of this or by this magic mantra. Let's take up shloka number 2.33. So we see here that Krishna is trying to convince Arjun with the method or the process of karma kand, that even if you want enjoyment in your life, in this life, then also you will need to fight because there is no other way. Actually speaking, Krishna is going to come to the conclusion eventually that Arjun, if you are still in this notion, this thought that I am the body, if you are still considering yourself as the body, still, if you want to enjoy this body, you want fame, name, fight. Because even for a Kshatriya, you see, when we are thinking of ourselves as a body, then Krishna has given out the Varnashram Dharma. That whatever role you are playing in the society, of that of a Brahmin, of a Kshatriya, you see there are different kinds of Dharma. The Kshatriya Dharma, the Brahmin Dharma, the Vaishya Dharma, the Shudra Dharma, the Stri Dharma, and so on. So whatever role you are following in the society, please do that properly, because that is your stepping stone to the next step in the ladder of reaching Krishna, or reaching enlightenment, if you want to say that. Well, then Krishna also tells Arjun, if in the previous few verses, as I told you, that you are not the body, you are the soul, if you have managed to understand that, if you're now on the platform of the soul, still fight. So, why fight? Because it's my will. If you have understood that you are the soul, and you have understood that the soul or yourself are a part and parcel of me, the super soul, then you must do what is my desire, my will. Align your will to mine and fight. So if you think you are a body, fight. Follow the Varnashram Dharma. Do your Kshatriya Dharma and fight. If you think you are the soul, fight, because that's my will. You see, so in either case, the verdict is that Arjun, you must fight. whichever the case, whatever your platform of understanding, whatever your platform of thinking, you must fight. So in these few verses, Krishna is actually talking on the platform of the body, because when Krishna is again and again stressing on the fact that follow your body, say dharma, the conditional duty, then do your Kshatriya dharma, act like a proper Kshatriya. So at this moment, Krishna is not talking about the transcendental platform or the platform of the soul. So either way, Krishna is trying to convince Arjuna in different ways. 2.33. Atha chetitvam imam dharmyam sangramam na karishyasi tatah swadharmam kirtim cha hitva papam avapsyasi. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. If, however, you do not perform your religious duty of fighting, then you will certainly incur sins for neglecting your duties and thus lose your reputation as a fighter. Now in the next 3 verses, Srila Prabhupada is going to say in 2.33, by not fighting, Arjun, you will lose your reputation. That's the first thing. In 3.4, Srila Prabhupada is explaining that Krishna is saying that Arjun, if you don't fight, you will lose your name and fame in this world. Whatever name and fame you have earned in this world, you're going to lose it. In 3.5, Arjun is being told by Krishna that if you do not fight, then you will lose the high opinion that people have of you in their minds. People think very highly of you, Arjun. They think of you as a wonderful, brave warrior. But if you shirk from your duty today, if you run away from the battlefield without even fighting right now, people will just lose all the good opinions that they have about you and think that you are a coward. This particular shloka, Srila Prabhupada is explaining in the purport how Arjun has a reputation as a fighter, So a few stories go behind this. When the Pandavas are, in the exile in the forests and they're preparing to fight the Kauravas, Arjun is actually busy earning or, somehow deserving the weapons that will come in handy when they're fighting. So in one such episode, Arjun actually fights Lord Shiva, who comes in the form of a hunter, and by doing so, he actually manages to defeat Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva is so pleased, but at the same time, even after defeating, Arjun is so humble as a warrior that he, offers flowers to Lord Shiva once he comes to know who he is. So Lord Shiva is very pleased with Arjun and he awards him the famous Pashupat Astra. Then we also know of the various weapons that Arjun gets from his, so-called, actually the godfather, adoptive father, as Srila Prabhupada calls him, Lord Indra. So Indra also awards him with very wonderful weapons to fight. So Arjun's kitty, at the bag, it's full of wonderful weapons from all over the universe, not just world, universe. In fact, his own Guru Dronacharya also gives him the Brahmastra. And actually, Guru Drona knows that if Arjun wants, he can even defeat Guru Dronacharya. But Guru Drona does not refrain from giving him everything, even, something that could also result in his own killing. Well, eventually it did, but Arjun is such a brave, courageous and righteous warrior that he deserved to have all the weapons with him. Actually, we probably don't know so much about the personality that was Arjun, because we sometimes tend to look on him as somebody who got confused in the battlefield, and that's the reason why Krishna had to speak the Bhagavad Gita to him. But as we have discussed earlier also, Arjun was not really an illusion. He was only playing a role. And Arjun was such a magnificent personality, such a magnanimous warrior. There are so many stories of his bravery. Once, in fact, in his kingdom, It is told that a Brahmin's 9 sons died when they were born, and he came to Arjun and he kind of complained, look Arjun, in your kingdom 9 of my sons have died. So how can that be? Arjun takes upon himself as a responsibility, because for a Kshatriya, protection of his praja, of his subjects, is as good as protection of his own children. For a Kshatriya, the entire world is his own progeny. They look after their own subjects, their praja, as if they were their own children, and that's what the true Kshatriya is. So Arjun actually takes a vow. He actually builds a fence with his arrows that would stop even death from coming in. But while the story goes further, that the 10th one was also killed, and then how Arjun actually kept his promise, you may actually read this up yourself. But just to tell you, Arjun was such a magnanimous person, such a wonderful warrior. So his reputation as a warrior, Krishna is saying, is at stake. If you don't fight this battle, you are actually neglecting your duty and incurring sins. One of the arguments of Arjun was also that if I kill my grandfather, if I kill my own teacher, the one who's given me the knowledge of these astras and shastras, then I will become sinful. Paap lagega mujhe. But Krishna is saying that if you don't fight at this moment, because fighting is your duty. For a Kshatriya, fighting a righteous war for dharma is the duty. If a Kshatriya does not do that duty, then he gets the sins. It's not by not doing. So it's a wonderful way of putting it here. Srila Prabhupada saying that, in other words, he would go to hell. That's the last line of the purport, by the way. In other words, he would go to hell not by fighting, but by withdrawing from battle. Well, let's say it this way, that he would go to hell not by fighting, but by not fighting. So the placement of not makes all the difference. Shloka number 34. Akirtem chapi bhutani kathayishyanti te avyayam sambhavad vitasya cha kirtir maranad atirichyate. People will always speak of your infamy, and for a respectable person, dishonor is worse than death. Well, we have all heard that one, Pran jai par vachan na jai. For a Kshatriya, the fulfilling of his word, of his promise, fulfilling of his duty, his honor is more important than his life itself. A Kshatriya would die to keep his honor. He would actually prefer to give his life up than be insulted and letting to live. There are so many stories. We have actually heard about Maharana Pratap. We have heard about so many others, so many brave Kshatriya kings who actually prefer to give up their lives rather than be caught by the enemy and be, insulted by them. In fact, we have heard about the Kshatranis, the Kshatriya queens like Padmavati, who burned themselves in the fire alive. It jumped into raging flames of fire just to protect their honor from the invading Mughalamis. So that's the kind of spirit the Kshatriyas have, to protect their honor at all costs. And here Arjun is invoking that Kshatriya spirit in Arjun. Arjun, you are a Kshatriya, you belong to such a wonderful clan, the clan of Mother Kunti from one side, and the Kuru clan, that is the Pandavas and the Kauravas, they all belong to the Kuru clan. So you belong to the Kuru clan on the other side. Arjun, what are you doing? Where is your Kshatriya spirit? Because if you do not fight and do your duty, leave your weapons here, you will just be inviting people to talk about you in disrespectful tones. Your honor will be lost, Arjun. And for a Kshatriya, honor is more important than even life, as we just said. Now, in fact, there's a story that comes to our mind, that in Mahabharata itself, if you have heard this story, that King Rukmi, who was the brother of Rukmini Devi, who was being wedded by Krishna actually took her from the arena, and then married her later. But in the course of the events, her brother Rukmi came to fight with Krishna, because Krishna had literally kidnapped Rukmini, although that kidnapping was at the behest of Rukmini Devi herself. But when Krishna defeated Rukmi, what he just did was, because he was his wife's brother, what he just did was removed some part of his mustache and some of his hair. So that amounted to killing. That amounted to killing, because for a Kshatriya to be insulted by removing his mustache and hair meant it's actually more than killing, So Rukmi was so offended. He said, "No, Krishna, kill me, just kill me, don't do this to me." But it was more than that, So here, a Kshatriya would actually never hear somebody saying or somebody calling him a coward. And Krishna is just doing that. Do not leave the battlefield even before you've started the war, Arjun. You will be misusing my friendship. See, again, in the last part of the purport, Srila Prabhupada is putting this up so beautifully, that Krishna is even saying, do not misuse my friendship. Do not shirk from your duties. 35 says, Bhayadranaduparatam mamashyante tvam maharatha yesham cha tvam bahumato bhutva yasyasi laghavam. The great generals who have highly esteemed your name and fame will think that you have left the battlefield out of fear only, and thus they will consider you insignificant. So here again Krishna is pointing out an important fact, that Arjun, even if you now leave the battlefield feeling compassionate for your relatives, later on nobody will say that you left the battlefield because you were feeling compassionate, not because of compassion. They say, oh, he left the battle because he was a coward. He was fearing the outcome of the battle. Oh, dar gaya humse, isliye chhod kar bhag gaya. Nobody will glorify your leaving the battlefield. On the contrary, they are all going to demean you. They are just going to pull you down. And of course, your opinion in their hearts. Today, grandfather Bhishma, Karna and Drona, all these great generals and warriors have such a high opinion of you, Arjun. But if you leave the battlefield like this, nobody will actually agree that you left because you were feeling compassionate. Everybody will say that you were a coward. You feared, and that's why you left. And that's how it happens, And people love to talk. We know how the grapevine travels, how gossiping takes place. So from one to another, the verdict will spread all over the world. The entire world will think of you as a coward, somebody who left the battlefield out of fear and not because of compassion. That's how it happens. So in these 3 verses, I was just thinking, what is there in it for us, for our everyday lives? What's the takeaway point here? There's so many times when situations in our lives are really bad, they're testing. And sometimes we just feel like giving up, as in not really feeling up to it to keep going on, with your routines, your duties. So here the lesson for us is, whatever the circumstance, first let's, of course, even if we, of course, do not start thinking from the standpoint of the soul, even if we are still thinking from the standpoint of the bodies, if I am a mother, if I am a wife, if I am a teacher, whatever role I am playing in the society, I just need to keep carrying on with my duties, no matter what the situation. That's what the takeaway from this verse, these 3 verses is for us. As for example, from the purport of 2.14, Matra Sparshasti Kaunteya Shitoshna Sukha Dukkhadah Agama Paino Anityas Tam Stitikshasva Bharata. There also Srila Prabhupada instructed us that whatever be the situation, whether it is hot, whether it is cold, or you're mentally upset or you're physically upset, try your best to keep doing your duties, because that's your ticket to success ultimately, whether it be in this material world or in your entry to the spiritual world. Because here, as Srila Prabhupada is explaining, that even on the level of the body, if you're doing the duties of your body also properly and with diligence, this promotes you to higher consciousness levels. And that's how you don't only succeed in this life, you don't only come out as a warrior, as a successful person, but you also promote yourself to the next higher consciousness level. So, come what may, let's do our duties, let's stick to our routines, let's stick to doing the calling in our lives. With that note, that's all for today. Chant Hare Krishna and be happy.